Loading and controlling sound through ActionScript is fairly simple once you know how. This lesson demonstrates the methods required to perform this set of tasks properly. So here in this FLA document, I have a text field upon the stage, and its instance name is status field. This we're going to be using to output various messages depending upon the state of our sound playback. You'll also notice in my document, I've created a class, which is the document class called sound playback. Everything else we do is going to be tied to that sound playback ActionScript class. So let's jump over to that class right now. And I'll scroll up to the top. So we'll go through this step by step. The first thing we do right after our package declaration is declare a number of imports. We're going to import flash.display.sprite in order to extend sprite for this class, because we're extending this off of the main timeline, which is either going to be a movie clip or a sprite. Since we don't have any real animation going on, we're going to choose sprite. We import flash.media.sound. This is our sound object for which we load in the sound. Then we have flash.net.urlRequest. The URL request class is what we use to specify the path to the sound file to be loaded into the sound object. We then have flash.events.event. So we use the event class to tell when the sound has loaded completely. Flash.events.mouseEvent we use to listen for mouse clicks. And then we have flash.media.soundChannel. SoundChannel is used to playback sound, and it's also used to control and read certain portions of the sound, such as the current position. And then we import flash.text.textField, because we're using that text field upon our stage, and we can easily reference its methods and properties this way. So scrolling down, we have our class definition, public class, sound playback, extend sprite. So this is our entire class right here, extending sprite. And then we make a number of variable declarations. So here we have a public variable called status field, and it's a text field. If we jump back to our FLA, this represents this field right here, status field. It's public because that's the way we can tie these two objects together, or rather have a representation of this object within our class file. We then declare a number of private variables. So we have our sound, we have our sound channel, we have position, which is a number, and this is going to be used to record the current position of playback. And then we have a Boolean called isPlaying. A Boolean, of course, is either true or false. So this keeps track of whether the sound is actually playing or not. Within our constructor function, we declare public function sound playback, and we set that status field text to read preparing file, since that's what we're doing right now. We're going to also add an event listener to our status field of type mouseEvent.click. So whenever we click the status field, it will invoke the function called toggle music. We then declare our file through a URL request. So var file URL request equals new URL request, and then we pass in a string which represents the path to that MP3 file. We then declare our sound. So sound is equal to new sound, and likewise prepare our channel. Channel equal to new sound channel. We then add an event listener to the sound object of event complete, and this will fire off when our sound has completed loading through the URL request. When it does that, it will invoke the method onComplete. And then we actually load it. So we say sound.load, and we pass in that URL request. When that finally does complete loading, it invokes this function, private function onComplete. We pass through that event, and we return void, since we're not actually returning anything here. Then we update the status field .text property to let the user know that the sound is now playing. We set the isPlaying variable to true, and then we say channel equals sound.play. This does two things. It binds the sound to this channel, and it also plays the sound. So while the sound is playing, at any point, we can click upon the text field, and it will invoke this function here, private function toggle music. And this is going to pass through a mouse event and return void. So if isPlaying is true, then we set isPlaying to false. We set our position variable equal to the current channel position. This will bring back and record the number of seconds into playback that we currently are at. And then we say channel.stop, which stops the audio from playing. We then update the status field by letting the user know that we've stopped at a certain number of seconds position. Note that we also invoke math.round here. This is simply going to round our seconds to whole seconds. So else, meaning if isPlaying is false, then we set isPlaying to true, we set our channel equal to sound.play, and we pass in that position. In that way, the sound will begin playing from that specific number of seconds that's been recorded. And then we simply update the status field to let the user know what's going on. So let's have a quick look at this. If we go to Control, Test Movie, Test, we can see that the sound is now playing. And if I click on that, we can see it's stopped at a certain position. And if I click on it again, it's playing from that certain position. And if I let it play and click again, it stops at that same position. So in this way, we're controlling the playback of a dynamically loaded sound file through ActionScript. So this has been an example of how to play back dynamic audio with Flash Professional CS6.